Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in this video, we are going to be breaking down the Thursday night football game with the Kansas City Chiefs playing up against the Houston Texans. We're going to be talking about it from a fantasy football perspective and giving you guys my assessment of what happened in that game and how I feel overall, fantasy football-wise, about how they are going to play in the future. So in this game, like I said, the Kansas City Chiefs played the Houston Texans. The Chiefs won the game 34-20. Kind of expected that the Kansas City Chiefs would end up winning this game, but I did expect it to be a little more high scoring. I expected Watson to be able to fight back early in the game and put up some points, but that just did not end up happening until much later in the game. So before I get into this video and break down every single player from this game that I feel like is notable, let me tell you guys to hit that subscribe button down below. It's free, and I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So we're going to break down the game. Now, Deshaun Watson did end up scoring more points than Patrick Mahomes in fantasy football on the week, but it was very little. In some leagues, maybe it's 2 points. In other leagues, it was just like 0.4 points in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. Now, this is not because Deshaun Watson actually ended up playing the better game, but that's because Deshaun Watson ended up scoring a touchdown with a rushing touchdown. He got one rushing touchdown, whereas Patrick Mahomes threw 3 passing touchdowns. Deshaun Watson ended up with more rushing yards, which obviously equivalates to more fantasy football points because that's just how fantasy football works. Now, both quarterbacks did end up playing very good in this game. The biggest winner of this game was Sammy Watkins. Now, I don't know who in their right mind ended up starting Sammy Watkins, but he had 7 receptions for 82 yards, as well as 1 touchdown for 21.5 PPR points for the week. Now, obviously, if you started Sammy Watkins, you are as lucky as the guy on the Lucky Charms fucking cereal box, because there's no reason for you to have started Sammy Watkins except for the fact that on a year-to-year basis, he's very, very, very good week 1, and he yet again proves it. So right now, my opinion on Sammy Watkins, you probably had him on your bench, he probably blew up, and you're probably sitting there second-guessing yourself. Why did I not start Sammy Watkins? Because it's pretty simple. Sammy Watkins in this game could have either scored 0 points or 25 points. He ended up scoring 21. That was one of the outcomes. So to me, make sure you sell Sammy Watkins. I would be I would be trading him so hard off my team. I'd be fucking trying to ship him off for a used bag of condoms because this guy is not going to do anything the rest of the season. So try to make sure you can get any value from Sammy Watkins that you can right now off of his current price. Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes, like I said at the beginning of the video, both played good in this game. If you had Pat Mahomes and you were a little disappointed, don't be super disappointed. The guy threw 3 fucking touchdowns, so don't go ahead and try to sell him off, think he's going to be bad this season. He is going to have yet another great year in fantasy football. Now, the biggest talking point of this game has to be the running back position. We had a David Johnson battle versus Mr. CEH. David Johnson went for 77 rushing yards for 1 touchdown. Also got 3 receptions for 32 receiving yards, I should say, for 19.9 PPR points. David Johnson ended up winning the battle between the 2 running backs for scoring the most fantasy football points. Now, this should not scare you about CEH because he scored just 0.1 point less than Mr. David Johnson. CEH ran for 138 yards and 1 touchdown, but was not very involved at all in the passing game, had 0 total receptions, which was very surprising considering I believe that CEH was going to be heavily involved in the pass-catching game for this Chiefs offense, but it seemed like they were up ahead too early, and they didn't really have to pass the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So at the end of the day, David Johnson ended up winning this battle. So how do I feel about both of these running backs after the game? We'll start with David Johnson of the Houston Texans. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to take a victory lap here. I may be one of the only fantasy analysts that wasn't completely dumpstering David Johnson. Now, I understand that it's a 1-game sample size, and I understand that David Johnson will most likely eventually get hurt, but my claim for David Johnson was that when he is going to be healthy, he is going to be a beast for fantasy football, and that's what this proved. Up against one of not really the best defense in the league, but a pretty okay defense in the Kansas City Chiefs, David Johnson ended up having a fantastic game. He looked like the David Johnson of the past, making cuts, making guys miss on the defense. So David Johnson had a really good game, was also involved in the pass-catching game, just like I personally suspected. I didn't honestly think that he would rush for 77 yards. My guess was he maybe gets like 40 or 50 yards, scores 2 touchdowns, and catches a million balls. And I was kind of right. He was involved in the pass-catching game and only scored 1 touchdown. But hey, that was a very good game for David Johnson. And with Duke Johnson injured now, maybe he misses next week, we could see David Johnson even more involved in week 2 of the NFL season. Now, what is my opinion on him? Do I keep him? Do I trade him? If you're going to find someone that is a dumbass to believe that David Johnson is going to play all 16 games of the season and is going to overpay for him, sure, you can trade him. But most likely, most people just like you realize, hey, he will miss a couple of games, but while he's healthy, he's going to be great, so you can continue firing him up in your roster. I really like David Johnson in this matchup. Thought he was pretty good. Told a lot of people to start him, and hey, it ended up working out in this game. David Johnson played better than CEH, but only by 0.1 points for CEH in his rookie debut. I was honestly kind of doubtful at the beginning of the game. It seemed like he was getting like 3 yards a carry. It seemed like he was getting stopped behind the line, and he did have multiple opportunities to score more than one touchdown. Ended up going 138 for one. Probably could have scored 3 total touchdowns in this game, but the offensive line just did not work in his favor. The things just didn't go in his favor, and CH didn't end up scoring 3 total touchdowns. But the promise seems to be real for CH. Even though the guy is 5'7", they're still giving him the ball a million times on the goal line. He was super involved in this offense. Darrell Williams was sneaky involved in this game, though, so don't be surprised if it's not just a CEH complete and utter takeover of this offense, because Darrell Williams, I believe, kind of incorporated himself in this offense from playing pretty well at the running back position, so don't be surprised if CEH isn't the guy just getting the ball every single time. Darrell Williams is going to be involved in the games, but overall I felt very confident in both the running backs as well as both wide receivers. Other guys to talk about in this game, we got Will Fuller of the Houston Texans. Now, he was a guy that I touted as one of those high upside picks. Sure, he's not safe at all because there's a chance that Brandon Cooks gets force-fed down his throat, gets the ball a million times, and then you end up being very disappointed in Will Fuller. That did not happen. Will Fuller had 8 receptions for 112 yards with 0 touchdowns, but did have multiple opportunities to score in the game, it felt like, and just never ended up finding the end zone for 19.2 PPR points. So he did end up paying off. Will Fuller had quite the great game. It was pretty obvious that this game was going to have multiple players that really had good games to start off the NFL season, and that is exactly what happens. I'm not selling high on Will Fuller. I personally believe he is going to be very good in this offense while he is healthy. It's the same thing with David Johnson, Brandon Cooks, all these motherfuckers on Houston. It seems like if they don't end up in crutches by the end of the week, they're going to heavily pay off for your fantasy football team. Talking about the other opposing team, Tyreek Hill had an okay game, 15.6 PPR points for 5 receptions for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. He did not seem to be very involved in the first half of the game, ended up scoring later inside of the game. Tyreek Hill, obviously a guy that is a complete and utter game breaker in fantasy football. He's a guy that could go from scoring like 7 points on a week to scoring 30 and completely fucking destroying your opponent in fantasy football. So that's why Tyreek Hill is such a heavily targeted asset in fantasy football. For Travis Kelce, he ended up finding the end zone, 6 for 50 and 1 touchdown for 17 PPR points. We expected Travis Kelce to score in this game, and he did. Travis Kelce, obviously, you drafted him so highly in fantasy football, so you were going to expect big production out of him, and that is exactly what we ended up seeing on this week. So before we end the video, I want to bring up Brandon Cooks' stats because I know a lot of people probably picked him here in this game, may have ended up playing him, and he disappointed. 2 receptions for 20 yards and 4 fantasy football points. Now, I was very worried about him playing in this game. I thought that if he played, he may have been a decoy. I may have advised a couple people to play him. Obviously, I was wrong on that. He was really used as a decoy, did not get too many yards, but don't fret it. Don't be scared of Brandon Cooks. I would honestly try to trade for him right now. His trade value is probably at an all-time low. You're going to be able to get him on the real cheap due to him not performing all that well. Week 1, coming into the week limited, I kind of expected a situation like this to happen. Sure, he could have scored a touchdown, and that total would have went to 10. He would have been perfectly fine with Brandon Cooks, but it just did not roll that way since the Houston Texans ended up taking the L in the game. So I think Brandon Cooks is a guy that you could be looking at to potentially add to your roster from a trade, because a lot of people are going to be off of him based off of this week, which is a good thing for you. Overall, I thought this was a very entertaining Thursday night football game. I think it gives us a nice tease for what is going to be happening on Sunday. I'm super excited for Sunday and hope you guys are super excited as well. If at any point inside of this week 1 breakdown you ended up enjoying the video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you guys. I cannot wait to hit 7,000 subscribers, so please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you motherfuckers later with yet another banger of a video. Goodbye!